Alright, in this video we're going to talk about how we compare and order numbers, putting them in order from smallest to largest or largest to smallest or vice versa. Some general advice appears to you on this first slide. The first thing that I would do if I were uncomfortable comparing and ordering numbers is I would take all the numbers that I have and I would convert them all to decimals, because then it's going to be easy for us to compare the decimals. We can just look at the decimal digits and find the first place that the numbers differ in their decimal digits, and whichever one's bigger is going to be the bigger magnitude number. So after we've converted all our numbers into decimals, we're going to use these three ideas. First of all, know that all positive numbers are greater than all negative numbers. So if we're ever asked to compare a positive and a negative, the positive number, for instance 5, is always bigger than a negative number like negative 2.4. Okay, so that's our first basic mindset. The second thing, positive numbers that have a larger magnitude are larger than whatever we're comparing them to. Now, magnitude is an important word here. And what is magnitude? It shows up in our second and third points here. What is magnitude? Magnitude is the value of a number ignoring its sign. So, for instance, the magnitude of 8 is 8. The magnitude of negative 5 is 5. So when I talk about the magnitude in these two parts, that's what we're talking about. So positive numbers with a larger magnitude are larger. So for instance, 8 is bigger than 4 because they're both positive, and 8 has a larger magnitude than 4. Negative numbers with a larger magnitude are smaller. And so for instance, negative 8 and negative 4, if I compare those, they have the same magnitudes as the numbers in the previous pair, but in this case they're negative. Well, negative numbers with a larger magnitude are smaller, so negative 8 has a larger magnitude than negative 4, so negative 8 is going to be smaller than negative 4. Another thing that we can do to help us with this concept, if we find it helpful, is we can go ahead and lay out numbers on the number line. We've already talked about how to do that. And numbers that are further to the left on the number line are smaller, and numbers that are further to the right on the number line are bigger. So that's a basic idea of how we compare and order numbers. Let's go ahead and do some. For each of these pairs, we're going to identify the relationship, whether one number is greater than or less than the other. So let's look at example A. We're going to compare negative square root of 5 and positive square root of 3. Well, first of all, one of these numbers is negative and the other one is positive. That tells us right away that the positive number is bigger. And so I'm going to fill that sign in right there. Okay. Next, part B, we compare the square root of 8 and 2.5. They're both positive, so whichever one of these numbers has a bigger magnitude is going to be bigger. We might not recognize right away that what the value of square root of 8 is for its magnitude, so let's go ahead and check in and we'll see what's the square root of 8. 2.828. So approximately 2.828 is a larger magnitude than 2.5, and so square root of 8 is larger than 2.5, since they're both positive. And now our last example here, negative 15 over 4 and negative square root of 11. You probably don't recognize the decimal value of either of these right off the top of your head. So we'll go ahead and find those. We've got negative 3.75, and we've got negative 3.316. Now the negative 15 over 4 has a larger magnitude, and since these numbers are both negative, the one with the larger magnitude is smaller. So negative 3.75 is less than negative 3.316, and so negative 15/4 is less than negative square root of 11. All right, on to our next example. We're going to put these numbers in order from least to greatest. negative square root of 6, pi, 13 over 9, negative 2.1, and positive 2.7. First thing I'm going to urge you, whenever you see a problem like this, where we're putting a list of numbers in some order, make sure you pay attention to what order you're putting them in. Are you putting them in order from least to greatest, or ascending order, or increasing order? Or are you putting them in order from greatest to least, or descending order, or, decreasing order? Some terminology, but make sure you pay attention to the order that you're supposed to be putting them into. All right, now, I look at these 5 numbers, and I'm making them from least to greatest. Now, since negative numbers are always less than positive numbers, I'm going to start my list with the negative numbers. So I focus on these 2 numbers here first, because I know those 2 are smaller than all the other numbers. And so I'm going to find the values of those. Negative square root of 6, and we've got negative 2.1, negative 2.449. 2.449 is a larger magnitude than 2.1, and so that's going to be the smaller number. So we can start our list with negative square root of 6, and then 2.1, negative 2.1, is bigger than that. Now we turn our attention to the remaining 3 numbers on the list, the positive numbers. We all know that pi is about 3.14, and 13 over 9 is 1.444. So we're going to compare those 3 numbers. We've got pi, which is about 3.14, 13/9, which is 1.44, and 2.7. The smallest magnitude of those is going to be the next in our list, and that's 13 over 9. And then the next biggest magnitude is 2.7. That's smaller than pi. And then pi. And so that is our list from least to greatest. One more example. In this problem, we're going to put the following numbers in order from greatest to least. Notice it says greatest to least. So we want the bigger numbers to come first. So when I focus on this list, I'm going to start by looking at the positive numbers first, because I know the positive numbers have to be bigger than all the negative numbers. So we've got 1.8. We've got 5/3, which is about 1.6 repeating. And we've got square root of 2. Which of those numbers is the biggest? The one with the biggest magnitude, and that's going to be 1.8, followed by 5/3, and then square root of 2. So 1.8, 5/3, square root of 2, and then we have to deal with the negative numbers. We know negative 1's value. Let's look at the value of negative square root of 5. Negative 2.236. That's a bigger magnitude than negative 1 has. So that's going to be a smaller number. Since we're making them greatest to least, that's going to follow negative 1 in our list because it's smaller than negative 1. And so we'll have negative 1 and negative square root of 5. And that is our list from greatest to least. And that concludes this video on comparing and ordering numbers.